Okay, so it is 9 o'clock a.m. Eastern time here in Boston. So we'll get started. And for those of you who are new to the program, I'd like to introduce myself. My name is Allie. I'm a doctor of physical therapy, as well as a nationally certified Pilates instructor. I've been practicing here in Boston for the last 5 years. I own my own practice here, and I have been teaching with the Community Online Academy since it started back in March. So for today's class, we have stretch and strength for spine health using the foam roller. So you will need a foam roller. You'll also need your mat space to move around. One recommendation I'll make before we get started today is that you please listen to your body and take the option and or modification that's right for your body today. This class does focus a little bit more on the strengthening side of things. And so there are some challenging exercises in this class, but I do provide many options to modify if that challenge feels like too much for your body. And I encourage you to really just listen to your body, take those options so that you can get the most out of this workout. So we're gonna get started with our rollers, lying down on our back so that we are lying lengthwise on the roller. So I'll show you guys that setup here. So I'm actually gonna take my roller and turn it lengthwise along the mat. And then I'm gonna lie my whole spine down. So the easiest way to get onto the roller, I think, is to sit right on the end and then sort of walk your hands back so that you come to a position lying down. Now, if you have a shorter roller, you'll need to modify this exercise. So at least try and get your head and your upper back on the roller. Then you can hold your hips into a little hover or maybe place pillows underneath your hips. Once you're in this position, take a moment to just let your spine get settled. It can always feel a little bit eye-opening, I think, to feel the sort of straightness of your spine lying in this position. So you should feel the back of your head, the back of your shoulder blades, and your tailbone onto the roller. And know that in this alignment, your spine is relatively straight in its neutral position. So we'll start off just allowing our arms to open out to the side, taking a nice little pec stretch here. So you should feel a little opening across the front of your chest. If you feel tingling or numbness into your fingers, just bend your elbows a little bit. Add a slight tuck to your chin so that you can lengthen the back of your neck, and think about drawing the rib cage down to imprint the back ribs onto the mat. And as we lie here, just opening up through the front of the chest, tune your attention into your breath and see if as you take your inhale breath, you can open up your rib cage and your belly. And with your exhale breath, see if you can feel the back of your ribs start to press down into the mat. So you inhale, feel a little lift and opening. And with your exhale, feel the back ribs press into the mat. Good. We're gonna try about 3 more breaths like this. So an inhale, open up. Exhale breath to let it go. Twice more. Inhale, big opening. Exhale, let it go. Good. One more time here. Big inhale in through the nose. Exhale breath out through the mouth. And then go ahead and walk your feet a little closer towards one another. So they're about hip distance apart. And try and get your balance. It should feel a little bit unsteady here. We're gonna start by reaching the arms up towards the ceiling, okay? Just getting your center. We're gonna try and open up the shoulders here by drawing some arm circles. And I want these to be fairly big, but within a comfortable range of motion for your shoulder. And at the same time, you're keeping your core a little bit active to keep you balanced on the roller. So pushing down equally into both feet as you open up both arms out to the side. Good. 3 more times. Try and keep your palms facing up towards the ceiling if you can. 2 more. Good. 1 more time here. And then we'll change direction. Go ahead and press your palms down, open them out to the side, sweeping up and around. And you'll start to notice any little differences from side to side in your shoulders. They may actually make you feel a little bit off balance and unsteady here. We'll do 3 more like this. Good. Last 2. 1 more time here. And then you can bring your hands down to the floor, just letting the tips of your fingers rest down onto the floor. Now, if you have a shorter roller, this next exercise is going to be tricky, so just bear with me, and you can kind of hang out in that stretch position. So what we're going to do is try and keep the fingertips only on the floor, keeping your spine nice and steady on the roller. Try marching 1 foot at a time up off the roller. And so you can imagine this as kind of like walking. You're trying to keep your spine nice and still while your legs move here. So you can feel those little bobbles side to side. Try and minimize that bobble as you march. Now, if you've done this before, or this is feeling relatively easy and you'd like to build, try picking both feet up off the floor and just get your center. Especially think of pinning the back rib cage down into the mat. You can extend your toes up long towards the ceiling and then slowly start to reach one leg down, bring it back up, opposite leg down, bring it back up. So you're moving within your body's comfortable range of motion. You can always go back to that marching movement if this feels like too much, but see if you can keep the spine super steady on the roller as you move here. Also getting a nice length and lift through the rest of your spine. Good. 4 more times like this. That's it here, guys. 3. Last 2. Once more here. Good. And then bend both knees down. Take a gentle stretch. We're going to come off the roller. So roll to your side and gently press yourself on up. So as we work through the rest of our class here, we're going to try and do mobility work first, followed by strengthening in that new mobility. We'll start with our upper back. So you can turn the roller to the perpendicular direction across your mat. You're going to turn so that your feet are planted down on the floor, and you'll lie down on the roller so that the roller goes just below your shoulder blades. So I think the easiest way to do so is hold the roller behind you, lean back until you're just below the shoulder blades, and then hold your head in your hands. If you have longer hair, you may want to get your hair, or if you have a hood on, out of the way, and then walk your feet in a little bit closer. From here, we're going to pick our bottoms up, make sure your head is really heavy in your hands, and start to roll from the base of your neck down to just below the shoulder blades. We're not going to go past that point. So pull in and then press yourself back out. So what we're doing here is rolling over the upper back, and we're getting a couple things. We're getting a little bit of extension at the joints in our upper back, which is the opposite of bending forward. We're also starting to get a little massage into the muscles that surround our spine in our upper back. So very gently rolling back and forth. This should feel intense, but not super painful. If you need to put your bottom down and take a rest at any point, you can do so. Now, as you're rolling, I also want you to assess and see if certain spots feel much tighter than others. And the whole thing might feel a little tight, that's okay. But if you feel a certain spot that is a little bit more stiff or tight than other areas, pause on that spot, place your bottom down, and try dropping your spine over the shape of the roller. So in that position, I'm actively trying to draw my rib cage down while dropping my chest and sternum over the roller. Notice that I'm not just dropping my head back, okay? So our necks are already flexible. We want this stretch to stay in our upper back. So once you've tried that a couple times, you can roll, find a slightly different spot, place your bottom down, and try the same thing. And this is where you can make this class work for your body. So the spots that you find might be different than the spots I find on my back. So you're gently rolling back and forth, finding the zone that feels a little bit tight, place your bottom down, and drop your spine over the shape of the roller. Good. So we can add a couple other dimensions here. So as you continue to roll, think about bending your right elbow towards your right hip. That's going to open up the left side body. And you can notice if maybe that side feels a little bit tighter. You can also do the same going over to the right, or rather the left, to feel the right side body open. So spend a little bit more time wherever you feel like your body needs it the most, And maybe it's both sides, and that's okay. So you can kind of spend a little bit of time between both zones. The other dimension, and I'll sit up to show you guys this first, is to add rotation, which is to dip one elbow down towards the floor and the other elbow up towards the ceiling. So you're going to get that in rolling, and that will help you get a little bit more into the lat muscle, which we're going to use in just a moment when we get into some spine extension work. So if I tip myself over to the left, I can get into my left lat with my right elbow pointing up towards the ceiling. And then I can go ahead and switch, doing the same thing over on the right. Good. Keeping the elbow pointing up towards the ceiling and dropping the shoulder down away from the ear. Very nice. So notice maybe if you need to spend more time in one setup than the other, we'll spend just another moment or two here. You can actually spend anywhere from 2 to 5 minutes doing this upper back rolling. And this is something that you can easily do every day. You could even do this a couple times a day to combat the effects of sitting. Good. So we'll sit down, take a little rest, and come on up to a seated position. So we just worked into that extension of the upper back. We're going to try and build some strength in that position now. So we'll keep the roller as it is, but flip on over onto your stomach. And you're going to place your hands on top of the roller. Now, if you have shoulder sensitivity, I would keep your hands on with your elbows bent. If you do not have any shoulder sensitivity, you can start with your elbows straight, and your head is going to hover off the mat, so it's just between your shoulders. Now, from this position, the first step, regardless of elbow position, is to push down into the roller. My feet stay resting down on the floor, and as I push down, I'm going to start to pull that roller towards me to lift my chest up and then lower back down. Now, everyone's range of motion is going to be different here. I want this to feel challenging but comfortable. So if it's getting to be too much for your upper back, for your lower back, it probably means that you are not maintaining good pressure into your hands down into the roller. And if you're working with bent elbows here, same form, lowering down. Now I want you to notice if your shoulders stay hiked by your ears, think of pulling that roller towards you, pulling the shoulder blades onto the back as you press down, and then lifting your spine and gently lowering back down. Good, so pull the roller towards you, shoulder blades glue onto your back, press down into that roller, keep pressing down into your hands to gently melt your spine down. And you should feel your shoulders working, your back is working, your core is working. You'll even feel your glutes, your butt muscles working a little bit to help keep your feet down onto the mat. Beautiful here, guys. Let's try about 5 more. Pulling the shoulder blade down the back. Imagine shining your heart forward, head is tall, gently melting back down. 4 more times. And softly lower. Any breathing pattern is okay here, but I find it helpful to inhale when you lift up, exhale when you press back down. We'll try 2 more times like that. We inhale, lift, exhale to lower. Good. Once more, shoulder blades pull down the back, lift the heart tall, and gently lower all the way back down. Good. This time you can push yourself up and back, keeping your hands on the roller. Give yourself a gentle spine stretch forward and allow your head to drop down between your shoulders, just breathing into the back of your rib cage. We'll try 1 more breath here and then come all the way on up. Okay, so our next mobility work is going to be for our glutes, for our hips. We're going to get into a little bit of hip strengthening, but we'll start with our mobility work. So you can go ahead and take a seat on top of the roller. We'll do one side and then the other. I find it easier to do a little side-to-side approach here. So I'm going to get into my left glute, left hip first. My left hand will go back onto the floor behind me. I'm going to turn my body to the left and start to roll back and forth along the muscle in my left hip. And it should be on the muscle. You don't want to be rolling over bone. The big bones that you're looking out for are the big bone on the side of your hip, which is the greater trochanter. It's a part of your femur bone. And then you have the ischial tuberosity at the bottom of your hip, which is your sits bone, that kind of bony part of your bottom that you sit on top of. So staying away from those bones is going to make your rolling a lot more comfortable, but also more effective. Now you do have small muscles in your glutes that go all the way up along the length of your pelvis. So you can go fairly high towards your low back, but I don't want you to roll on your lower back here. Again, it should still be on the muscle. Now you can sort of orient yourself more towards the side if you want to get more into the side hips, or more up to the ceiling if you feel tighter in the more central part of your glute. So gentle back and forth here. If you find a tight spot, you can always pause and take a little rest, or continue to roll back and forth over that zone until you feel it start to loosen up. You can also add extra body weight to put more pressure down by crossing your right ankle on top of your left thigh, and that'll put more weight down into the roller to add to your left glute work. And just check to make sure your left shoulder is down away from your ear. Good. All right here, so we're gonna now take this over to our right side by placing right foot down. Right hand is gonna go onto the mat, and you can turn towards the right and continue to roll here. Now you're kind of rolling along the length of your bottom. You can roll a little bit more to the side or more up towards the center, and your two sides might be quite different here, and that's fine. Just notice where your body feels like it needs that attention on this side. Just a reminder that you can add that extra body weight in with your left ankle on top of your right thigh in this case, and see if that feels like a necessary addition. I know this side's a little bit more sensitive for me, so I'm going to keep my left foot down on the floor for a little bit of support. You have that option to find a tight spot and just kind of stay on it to see as that if that spot will dissipate a little bit, or you can continue to just roll back and forth if that's better tolerated by your body. Good, and just allow yourself to breathe here. There's not a right or wrong breathing pattern, but sometimes when our body is under stress and this can feel kind of intense, we tend to hold our breath. So give yourself that support, continue breathing. That's it. We'll spend just another moment here on this right side before we get into our strength work for our glutes. Excellent. Okay, so from here, we're gonna take that roller out from underneath our bodies and place it underneath our feet for a little bit of bridging work. So the easiest way to get set up is to lay down onto your back and then bring the roller underneath the arches of your feet. And you want the roller to be pretty close to your bottom, especially if you're someone who tends to get cramps in your hamstrings. So the closer to your bottom, the more glute work it's gonna be. The farther away from your bottom, the more hamstring work it's gonna be. So you can kind of tailor this for your body. I think most people need to work on the glutes a little bit more than the hamstrings. So make sure your feet are parallel, they are grounded down into the roller. Your goal here is to keep the roller still. So place your arms down by your side, open your collarbones, push down into the feet to keep the roller still lifting into your bridge, and gently drop your hips back down. Now, if you feel this in your low back, it's often because your back is lifting too high. You want to keep your back nice and flat by dropping your rib cage down and then lifting using your butt muscles instead of your low back. If you're feeling cramping in your hamstrings, one, make sure your butt muscles are on, but two, think of hugging the two knees together as though there is something in between your inner thighs that is that you can give a gentle hug to. That'll keep your inner thighs active. and that should help to prevent the cramping from your hamstrings. You can also think of pushing down into your feet like you are trying to smush this roller underneath your feet. Good. We'll try about 3 more just like that. And gently dropping back down. Good. Last 2, exhale to press, lift up, and soften and lower back down. Good. One more time here, we'll lift up and gently melt and lower the spine down, coming to a quick rest. Good. We're gonna try one other little bridging exercise, this time with the feet a little bit wider and very slightly turned out. So it's as though your heels are closer than your toes in this position, but still allowing the arch of the foot to drape over the shape of the roller. In this wide stance, try the same thing. So you might notice that your legs kind of move side to side. Really think of pressing down, and you should start to feel the outsides of your hips in addition to the glutes, doing some work here to help lift and lower your hips, as well as to keep that roller super still. These are not easy. If you need to drop to the floor and take your feet off the roller at any point, you can also do your bridging exercises down onto the floor. So that's not a problem at all here. Good. 4 more. That's it. Gently lower back down. Good. Last 3. And we lower. Good, guys. Last 2. And lower down. Excellent. We'll try one more time here. Lift up, stretch the hips to the ceiling, and softly melt them all the way back down. Good. You can place your calves on the roller and then press yourself on up to a seat. So we're gonna do a little bit of rolling for our calf muscles next. And the rolling for the calf muscles is helpful because it's also kind of a bridging movement. So lifting up through our hips to get a really nice full lengthwise roll along the calves. So you're gonna take your hands, reach them about a foot behind your bottom, and you can turn your fingertips to point forward, or if you have a lot of wrist sensitivity, turn your fingertips out to the side. An important thing to note here with wrist sensitivity is that your chest stays open. So the more rounded your shoulders are, the more intense feeling you're gonna have in your wrist during this series. So open up your chest, drop your shoulders down away from your ears, and then just like we did in the bridging movement before, we're gonna lift our hips up to the ceiling. This time when we come down, we're gonna pull our bottom towards our hips, pulling the roller. Press our hips up and pull the roller back. So this is a nice strengthening exercise for our glutes as well as our core. It also doubles as that nice foam rolling for your calf muscles. Now, if you've done this with me before and you want to bias one side more towards the other, you can cross one ankle on top of the other and try that same movement pattern, then switching over to the other side. I always find that that's a little bit too much weight for my body, so I like to stay in the center so both calves are down. But if you know that you want to spend a little bit more time on one side compared to the other, you can do that single leg variation here. So pressing the hips up, pulling the hips back between your shoulders, good, to lengthen. So you want to roll right to the back of your knees and then all the way down to your Achilles. Just make sure that you are not going over the knee joint. So you're rolling to the knee, not over, and then pulling that roller in all the way down towards your ankle. That's it. We'll try 4 more here. Gently lower down. Good, guys. Last 3. Open up through the chest. Push down into your hands. Good. Twice more here. Lift and gently lower. Final time. And come all the way back down. Place your bottom down. Take a rest. All right. So we'll leave the roller like it is. We're gonna try another little strengthening series for our core, which is in a plank position. It also happens to roll the opposite of our calves, which is the front of our shins. So what that will look like here, and actually there's 2 options. You can be on your hands or on your forearms. You're gonna take sort of the ankle joint right on top of the roller. So you're kneeling with the ankles right on top of the roller. If you would like to stay up on your hands, you can set up with your hands down under your shoulders. You can also choose to set up on your forearms here with your elbows underneath your shoulders. Okay, I'll demo on my hands. So from this position, set your shoulders down away from your ears, grow long through the top of your head, draw your ribs up away from the floor, as though you could balance a tray of cookies right onto your lower back. And keeping that tray there, we're gonna pick our knees up into a little hover. Now, push the roller straight, bend it back in. Press it out straight, bend it back in. So we're rolling along our shins. If you're on your forearms, same thing, rolling out, pulling in. Trying to keep that upper back flat so we get a hinging motion from our hips. So either setup, notice if your back is starting to arch. If you want to keep your rib cage lifting up away from the floor, we'll try 5 more. And 4, that's it guys, last 3, almost there. 2, once more, come all the way in, drop your knees down. You can keep your feet on the roller to stretch the top of your ankles and walk your hands forward, letting your chest come down, taking that nice shell stretch or child's pose. Good, we're gonna take one more deep, big breath in here. And then gently release, coming all the way on up. Excellent. All right, so we're gonna get into our quad muscles to finish out this set. Our quads are on the front of our thighs. It also doubles as a nice planking exercise for a little bit of additional core work. So this time, instead of placing our ankles, I'm gonna bring that roller forward so that I can rest my thigh. And it's not my knee, I actually want the meaty part of the thigh on the roller. And then you can rest down onto your forearms and go ahead and straighten your legs back behind you so that your toes are down. So this is kind of nice. This is like a plank with a little bit of support for our legs. So I want you to think about lifting the ribs away from the floor, shoulders down away from the ears, pushing back into the feet. Now you can sort of start here by just shifting front to back. But if you want to get a little bit higher or lower, you can also start to walk yourself as though you are army crawling along the mat. So staying nice and low, walking your elbows forward, walking your toes forward, and then walking backwards. If this feels easy for you and you want to challenge your core a little bit more, lift your feet up off the mat and keep them actively reaching behind you as you use just your upper body to roll all the way from your hips down to the top of your knees. And as you roll back and forth, try and notice that your shoulders stay down away from the ears, that your rib cage is lifting away from the floor so your back is protected. And you can always add a tiny rotation to roll one of your legs in or out. If you want to get the more inner or outer part of your quad muscle, we call it our quad muscle because it is made up of 4 smaller muscles. So they run across the length or the span of your quad, the thigh. So trying to get maybe a little more on the inside or the outside is okay if you feel tighter in that part of the muscle. Good. We're gonna do just about 4 more here. Rolling back and forth. You can always place your feet down if needed. Last 3. Good. Keep your legs actively reaching long back behind you like someone's pulling on a string. And once more here. Good. And then come all the way back. And you can come on up to a seated position. So shake it out. That concludes our spine health series with the foam roller for today. What I hope you guys took from this is that no matter what you are doing on the roller, a little bit of attention to form can help support your spine, but it can also give you a nice little core workout, hip workout, whatever that may be. And so hopefully you're feeling a little bit looser now, and you can take these bits and pieces, using them throughout the day to keep your body flexible, warm, and feeling good. I'll answer any questions that you guys have, so let me come up.